ceremony, and we have highlights from Independence Day celebrations in Tobago. All these stories and more when Let's Talk Tobago returns. Stay with us.
Minutes from the cruise port, Comfort Inn and Suites pairs a convenient location with premium amenities, so you're ready to take on the day. Highlights of the brand new hotel include a rooftop pool and restaurant with sparkling ocean views, a full-service spa and modern fitness center, free Wi-Fi, and daily complimentary breakfasts. There's also spacious guest rooms and suites. Comfort Inn and Suites, a better us for the best of you.
So in our first story this week, we tell you how Tobago continues to make headway in its efforts towards eliminating gender-based violence. Here's more from Omadara Mills.
Tobago now has 25 UN Foundation's facilitators who are equipped to educate others about gender-based violence. They're also able to give guidance on preventative measures regarding gender-based abuse. Armed with their new skills, graduates are grateful to have participated in this UN Women Foundation's program Facilitators Training.
We looked at some of the cultural impacts of gender and how even our own society impacts how gender is seen. So we looked at the role of men and women, and even from a young age, the roles of boys and girls, different things that are frowned upon with boys, frowned upon with girls. I think it was very important because a lot of times we look at gender-based violence on the surface, like thinking that someone is probably just angry with another person and acting out. But when you look at these kind of underlying issues, you realize that it's more deeper than just someone deciding to act out.
Previous set of buzzwords were reducing violence against women and girls. Before it became a gender thing that is now more all-encompassing, it started off as a movement towards reducing violence against women and girls. And as we did this work, it became globally clear that in order to treat with violence against women and girls, we've got to incorporate boys and men. This workshop allows us to equip potential facilitators to appropriately and comprehensively conduct gender and gender-based violence training in emotionally safe ways. This program is but one of the many gender-sensitive initiatives that the division continues to implement, many of which are centered on the holistic development of our country as we streamline and implement best practices monitored by Gay Peoples of the National Policy on Gender and Development and the United Nations Development Programme Sustainable Development Goals 5 and 10.
The intent of the program is to nurture the abilities of positive change agents and increase the number of people who are able to eliminate gender-based abuse. I'm Amadaro Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
So in this next story, we take you to the 4th Financial Literacy Secretariat's Youth Biz Virtual Summer Camp closing ceremony. Do enjoy.
With the help of a dynamic team of facilitators and support from various organizations in the financial and business sector, Youth Biz has been able to provide this year 72 young persons between the ages of 13 to 18 with the practical financial and business tools required to build financially successful lives in the future. Through the use of virtual workshops and presentations, campers spend the first few days of camp learning about the fundamentals of financial literacy, such as budgeting, saving, financial planning, responsible decision-making, and personal money management.
This year's camp is aptly themed Unlock Your Creative Genius. This theme is important and timely in that it highlights the need for our young people to be creative and innovative.
So many of our people have many subjects, but have very poor business acumen, very poor business skills. And we take for granted that business must be taught. There is a faulty assumption that somehow you wake up one day and you're just going to be good at business. That's not how it works. People who are excellent at business tend to find time to study their craft. What you youngsters are getting is a kind of education we did not get in high school. We had to learn by whoops or vaps or by accident, by trial and error. Nobody placed us to sit down and insisted on some of the things that you are being taught. You are coming away from this with a bank account.
When you think about the Tobago Regional Health Authority, you think about nurses, doctors, and the patients, but it's much more than that. And over 50 interns recently found this out as they gained valuable work experience. Here's more in this story. Take a look.
Shanika Adams is an aspiring doctor, currently pursuing a medical degree at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. So 9 weeks of work experience under the Tobago Regional Health Authority's summer internship program was an ideal fit for her, along with 52 other interns during the July-August vacation.
I would say it was enlightening and eventful. We did a lot of activities, workshops on Fridays, as well as I had the opportunity to work in the A&E, Accidental Emergency at Roxborough Hospital, as well as MOPC, which is a medical outpatient clinic. For a lot of persons who may or may not know what field they want to enter into, it helps you to discover your niche. At the TRHA, it doesn't only consist of, as I first thought, of the medical faculty and the medical sector. It also includes human resources, finance, accounts, education, and as such you have different opportunities to explore.
I worked at the Department of Environment at the Scarborough General Hospital. It was a very eventful experience and I enjoyed it. I was mainly grateful for gaining experience in the leadership aspect, because leadership is a quality that would push youths forward to do great things. And time management is also hand in hand with leadership. A good leader is a good time manager.
The synergy between your studies and the internship is crucial in nurturing your passion and fueling your professional ambitions. Interns were able to apply their theoretical knowledge to practical tasks, but also foster a sense of relevance and enthusiasm for their chosen fields. This alignment also benefited the TRHA, as interns are better equipped to make valuable contributions.
I hope that this experience that you've had would allow you to critically determine whether being within the health field really is what you love to do. Ensure that wherever you go, ensure that what you do, ensure that what becomes your life journey is something that you actually want to do. And ensure that it is something that you enjoy doing, and coincidentally, it is wonderful that you get paid to do what you enjoy doing.
The internship program included tours to various medical facilities and weekly life skills sessions. It was restarted this year under the theme, Investing in Youth, Building with Us. I'm Amadara Mills for Let's Talk Tobago.
So we have to take a break right now, but when we return, we have more stories to share with you. Stay with us, because Let's Talk Tobago will be right back. For Bethel Newgrange, Terrence Baines hosted his second annual Ball Blast and Food Fest at the Montgomery Recreational Ground recently. We were there and we have all the highlights in this story.
The district of Bethel Newgrange is strengthening its community through sport and food. The second edition of the Baines Ball Bash and Food Fest took place at the Montgomery Recreational Grounds, which hosted a three-a-side basketball competition, netball, and small goal football competitions.
This ground is a kind of central place. It's one of the most trafficked ground in Tobago. And I thought about what we could do, and we know the power of sport. You know, when we started last year, so I thought about we doing these sporting disciplines and so on. And we did everything one day. We had everything happening simultaneously and so on. There were much more people and so on. And I said, you know, that it seems that this could be a signature event for the district.
The second day climaxed with a special charity cooking competition, which challenged 4 teams to deliver their best on a particular dish.
Green pork, chicken, and fish. Also, we're basically doing a fried pork. And the guy did so nice, eh? So you're gonna love it.
We love it. Bring community together and everybody a team spirit here. Good food, pepper pork, smoked pork, stew pork, stew chicken, dumpling, roast breadfruit. See the works. Yeah, fish, it's a fish rasta man. Fish, yeah, cuckoo. So everything there, we have everything.
We're cooking this pork by average. The only rasta not tasting this pork today. Well, we're not eating pork. So we presentation is a pig we make, and so we deal with the pig today, Rastafari. Although they ain't gonna kill me, they're gonna forgive me today. Today's a competition.
So what style we doing today? Where's on the menu today?
Well, we doing the pork judging, and we do the vegetable rice, and we have some dumpling. So we curry stew with pork, and the secret, I smoke it first. That's the secret.
What we get today on we menu, well, it's stew pork, curry stew chicken, a curry coconut fish, with some nice fried rice, some dumpling.
After teams were judged, their meals were made free to patrons. Assemblyman Bishop Terence Baines says the goal of the event is to create havens which help foster communities and families. The Ball Bash and Food Fest also had activities such as free face painting and bouncy castle for the kids. And for the much bigger kids and adults, they tried their luck at catching a pig in a greasy pit. I'm Ryan McCool for Let's Talk Tobago.
And in our final story, we give you an Independence Roundup with Ryan McCool. We hope you enjoy. And that's a wrap for this edition of Let's Talk Tobago. Thank you so much for joining us at Comfort Inn and Suites in Scarborough. Remember to follow us on all of our social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. On behalf of all of us at the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly, we'll see you again next week, but from a different location. Bye-bye.
You're watching Let's Talk Tobago. Action one. Yeah. I am the messenger. The messenger. I can't think of a time or a day or a minute that I don't go down on my knees and put Jesus in it. Sinful nature had me feeling so weak. emotionally. Feels like I'm sinking, never to rise no more. Father, yesterday, today, forever. You never change, you never change, you never rearrange. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. Without you in my life, what I go do, what I go do, Lord, I go dead if I don't have you. Here comes Jesus to the rescue. Father, you never ever fail me yet. Lord, you never ever fail me yet. When I fall down to the ground, your love keep me safe and sound. You never ever fail me yet. Personally, I give you the praises continually. Oh yeah, there's no other like you that could protect me from my little voodoo arms. I'll go astray, you leave the 99 for me, and it's overwhelming. Yesterday, today, forever. You never change, you never change, you never rearrange. Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. Without you in my life, what I go do, what I go do, that I go dead if I don't have you. Here comes Jesus to the rescue. Father, you never ever fail me yet. You never, Lord, you never ever fail me yet. When I fall down to the ground, your love keep me safe and sound. You never ever fail me yet.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, Tobago, and welcome this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. It's a beautiful Monday morning, and we're really happy to be in your company. Viewers, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. I'm your host this morning, Rhea Richardson George. Julian is out for the week, but we will be connecting with him sometime later on during the week. He won't be on set, but we're definitely going to connect with him. But before we head on into things, we just want to get an idea of what's happening in the news in and around Trinidad and Tobago, the region. So here's News in 90 Seconds with Candace.
The News in 90 Seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
Thank you, Rhea. I am Candace Jackson, and here is your News in 90 Seconds for Monday, 11th September 2023. The MV Emprendedora arrived in Port of Spain on Saturday evening. The vessel will operate in place of the MV Cabo Star, which has been out of service since August 23rd due to a fire. With only a tenth of the Cabo Star's capacity, this interim vessel completed an 18-hour journey from Venezuela, funded by Bridgman Services Group, which is the broker of the Cabo Star. Lyle Alexander, the chairman of the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, mentioned that the MV Emprendedora and its crew require customs and immigration clearance as well as certification to operate in Trinidad and Tobago, a process that may take some time. Meanwhile, the cabinet is scheduled to embark on a retreat immediately after the ceremonial opening of Parliament. According to a press release from the Office of the Prime Minister, the cabinet is slated to begin a working retreat today. This retreat will take place at Cruise Inn in Chagaramas. It is scheduled to commence this evening and conclude by midday on Wednesday. Among the items on the agenda is the national budget, which is due to be read within a month's time. And finally, Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez criticized the management of state-owned Water and Sewage Authority, WASA, for mismanaging the first phase of the Guapo-Capdeville pipeline project in Point Fortin. He expressed frustration at the project's 1 year and 6 month delay, calling it ridiculous. Gonzalez emphasized the need for better project management to minimize inconveniences to residents while improving water supply. He warned contractors of accountability and outlined plans for the upcoming fiscal year, including drilling production wells and improving water to several areas. Opposition MP Barry Padarat accused Gonzalez of passing blame and calling for accountability in government policy and appointments to WASA's board. And that concludes your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Thank you so much there, Candace, for the news in 90 seconds. Candace? Hi. I think, what we heard what you had to say in the news. I'm really happy to hear about this new vessel, not brand new, but this vessel coming to ease the traffic woes or the transportation woes here in Tobago. How soon will it be operational, or is it already operational?
It's not as yet because, like I said in the news, it would take some time for it to receive the certifications. So they are hoping within the next couple of days that all of that paperwork will be sorted out so that the vessel can operate. But even when the vessel comes on stream, you have another drama because the journey between Trinidad and Tobago would take 10 hours. And it would take less capacity than the Cabo Star. And the focus will be on transporting construction materials, which have not been transported to Tobago since this whole situation began. So we still got a long way to go before this is sorted out.
Is it then that half a loaf is better than no loaf?
Well, I mean, I guess that's for the business community to decide. They said they're going to give it a chance and see what happens because they are just under some serious pressure right now.
Most definitely, and we are. We are hopeful. We are hopeful, but I think enough is enough. Tobago has really suffered this transportation issue between Trinidad and Tobago. Tobagonians tend to suffer the most, when scenarios like this come around.
Certainly.
Yeah. Thanks again.
No problem.
Have a great one today, Candace. Well, viewers, we continue on with the program this morning, and we're going to head on over into our birthday segment before we get into what's coming up on the program this morning.
This is your birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
And we start off this morning celebrating Odika O'Neill. The birthday blessings and birthday greetings go out to Odika O'Neill from Jenny and the Tobago Updates team. Odika turned 50 on Saturday the 9th. Happy birthday going out to you, Odika O'Neill. Charlene Davidson celebrating her birthday. Charlene, lots of love going out to you this morning from Fifi and Gigi and Pat and the entire Speyside crew, all your siblings. Lots of love from my family to you and all of us here at Tobago Updates. Have a great one today, Charlene. And this is my schoolmate, my very good friend out there, although she would not publicly admit it, Nyla Parks, my very good friend, celebrating her birthday today. Nyla, love going out to you this morning from the class of 89 Signal Hill Senior Comprehensive School. From all of us, happy birthday, and from all of us here at Tobago Updates, have a great one. Ruby James. Ruby, we usually sing for persons, but I think this time around you should be singing for us for your birthday. Ruby, love going out to you this morning. Happy birthday from all of us here at Tobago Updates. Dominique Carrington, belated birthday greetings going out to you, Dominique. Happy belated, and we trust that you enjoyed. Continue to have a great one. Continue to enjoy from all of us here at Tobago Updates. Kamaria Caruth, happy belated birthday going out to you. We trust that you enjoyed. Lots of love from all of us here at Tobago Updates. Giselle King, belated birthday greetings going out to you, Giselle. And we trust that you enjoyed it to the max. And love from all of us here at Tobago Updates. And this is Wendell AJ, belated birthday greetings going out to you, Wendell. And this is the brother of, Tobago Updates, his very own William Nana. Happy belated going out to you this morning, Wendell, and lots of love from the entire team. Cara Jack, belated birthday greetings going out to you today, Cara, and love from your siblings and all of us here at Tobago Updates. Have a great one.
Birthday shoutouts on Tobago Updates, sponsored by KFC.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger.
The only one I see is you.
Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
And viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates morning show. It is the 11th of September 2023. And we go all the way back to September 11th, many years ago, right there in the US with the issues surrounding the World Trade Center and the bombings and the loss of lives and so many, in fact, such pain still associated with September 11th. And, I was looking at some stories just over the weekend of persons who would have survived and yet, they've never fully recovered from such a dramatic and eventful time in their lives. But we've got so much to be thankful for here in Trinidad and Tobago that we continue to give God thanks for life. Just to let you know what's coming up on the program this morning, viewers, we will be chatting with Dr. Faith B. Israel, Secretary for the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. Our concentration this morning is on COVID-19 cases on the rise, and we're seeing it happening as well in the US and the OPR whistleblower platform. She'll tell us more about this very interesting and unique platform. And then we continue the discussion this morning, chatting with Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS, and the focus is on updates from the TTPS and the TTPS on school, children and violence. And we're going to wrap things up this morning chatting with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph. Some of us who went to school with her know her as Sheila Waldron. Now we're chatting with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph, Principal, Bethesda Government Primary School. And Bethesda Principal is now a PhD. She'll tell us more about her journey to success. Well, viewers, that's just about it for our rundown this morning. Lots of great and exciting things coming up on the program this morning. But at this point, viewers, we're going to head on over to Tobago in Focus.
Exciting things are happening in sport in Tobago, particularly within the Sport in Education unit of the Division of Education, Research and Technology. This unit aims to expose primary school students to various sports within the school year at their schools and is responsible for enhancing these skills. Sport in Education Unit Sport Officer 1 Marcus Daniel and Ashal Legal explained 90% out of the 40 Tobago primary schools participate in the program.
At the schools level, that's the foundation. The athletes are actually learning. They dabble in different sporting disciplines. Sometimes you see an athlete doing track and field and really good. Then you see them doing football. Then you see them doing cricket. And at this level, it's just about sport for all and about participation. You also find scouts. And some clubs and some coaches will be at these events looking to scout athletes for their clubs. And we as a sporting education unit, we welcome clubs taking these talented athletes into their club to enhance what we put out there on a yearly basis in terms of events.
Football, track and field, cricket and netball are the sports offered at this time, but students will have the opportunity to participate in a lot more sporting disciplines in the future, according to Ms. Legal.
I didn't hear anybody mention swimming. Is swimming not on the list of
well, due to the fact that it's going to be reintroduced, hopefully soon, we actually intend to add a few new sports to the roster. We just can't reveal it yet until it's released.
Apart from the usual football and cricket,
there are some new ones that are going to be added, so that is something to look forward to.
And I think widening the gap here, widening the play field for our young players.
Let's give them different opportunities.
The United Nations Rights of the Child specifies the right to play and recreation, and many children have taken their newfound love of sport to gain success on the club level, representing Trinidad and Tobago on national teams, and even attaining scholarships. The Sport in Education Unit assures that no child within the Tobago educational system will be left behind.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We're chatting this morning with Dr. Faith B. Israel, Secretary for the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. This morning, viewers, we are concentrating on the COVID-19 cases that may be on the rise, as well as the OPR whistleblower platform. We're going to discuss that a little bit later on in the program. Dr. Faith B. Israel, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful being here. Bright and sunny Monday morning, is it?
Yes. I'm so sorry that we had to get you out of your bed so early. I know you're not a morning person.
But you know, being in this position, I have started actually having 7 a.m. meetings. For me is a norm now.
Wow.
Yes. And my staff don't appreciate it, but at least it's on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah,
that we can deal with.
Yeah.
That we're comfortable with. All right, let's chat this morning about. We're hearing in the news that COVID-19 cases are on the rise. How much of a rise are we talking about being on the rise?
So in the United States, and I guess if we're looking, because we focus on U.S. News, there is an uptick. If you really listen to them carefully, that is the word they use, an uptick in COVID-19 cases and a few hospitalization in the United States. It isn't something that we should be too concerned about. We are seeing a slight uptick in Trinidad, but we have not actually seen any uptick in Tobago, possibly because it is so mild. There are cases. We never said there were no cases, but the cases that are there are so mild that people are not coming to the hospital or health centers to be tested. So the official reported numbers are very, very low. And of course, this is a time that we normally have cold and flu season. So everybody have a cough, everybody have a sniffle, everybody has that kind of symptom. So unless those individuals are so ill that they feel they need to go to the hospital, it is really not being picked up in Tobago specifically. They are probably seeing it. I mean, the volume of people in Trinidad is over 1 million, so you'll probably see more of it being picked up in Trinidad. But we are certainly not picking up anything in Tobago just yet. And we have continued to do the surveillance, even though we've not been reporting. We've been doing the surveillance behind the scenes.
And that's really good to hear. In fact, had there been severe cases, I'm sure you would have known, and the hospitals would have reported cases. There's no one warded with COVID-19 cases at the Scarborough.
Not that I am aware of at this point. And if they are with COVID, that is a secondary, because, that is how we were highlighting many of the cases in the last part of when we were reporting earlier this year. The cases that we were picking up were people who were picked up because they went to the hospital because their hand was broken, and part of the protocol was to do a COVID-19 test. So it wasn't because they were going to the hospital because they had COVID, so as in the vast majority.
Or suspected to have had COVID.
Right. No. So even if they are individuals, this is predicted. This is the course that viral infections take. Those of us who did public health recognized it very quickly and realize that this is a process. Of course, we are encouraging people, if you are ill and you really feel ill, like you really feel like this is not just something that you could drink some bush tea or drink some, the typical things that we do, the lime and honey and whatever, or lemon water, the things we traditionally do. If you think that this is really affecting you, and in some instances, the flu that was going around was hitting people really hard. If you think you need medical intervention, definitely seek medical intervention. But at this point, I don't think we should be too concerned, definitely not too alarmed about COVID numbers going back up. We are not seeing that evidence just yet.
All right. Now, there is a vast difference in terms of the symptoms between COVID-19 and the flu.
Well, in many instances, it's very similar, and that is why at the beginning, because it is it's a viral infection. The symptoms for viral infections are basically the same. It's just a different virus. So it is, you get the headaches, you get the body pains, you get the runny noses, you get the shortness of breath. Those are that was part of the issue with COVID in the first place. When it first came about, it looked and sounded like every other flu we've had, and it was only because we had the severe cases, meaning people were getting really, really sick, and then when they tested and that kind of stuff, you realize it was something else.
What about the loss of smell? I think that
was one that was differentiated.
Yeah.
And there were individual, but those were some of the more severe cases. There was also something known as COVID toes, where your toes felt funny and your toes had a funny look. Of course, there are individuals who still have what we call long COVID, because the virus affected their bodies and all of their bodies in a way that they still are trying to recover. So they may still have shortness of breath. They may still have fog and memory loss and that kind of stuff. That is all part of long COVID, which of course that is different from the regular cold and flu experience. And of course, those individuals who had comorbidities seemed to be affected harsher by having the virus inside of them. But as I said before, the numbers that we are seeing in Trinidad and Tobago, and specifically Tobago, we are looking at the numbers, but we are not too concerned just yet. And, when we stopped doing the reporting a couple months ago, many months ago. Wow, it's September already. One of the things that I said is that the daily reporting seemed to desensitize people. So if you ever saw me coming and having a conversation about it, it's because we did see something that we needed to alert you about and you needed to be concerned about. So the fact that I did not say, this is something you need to be concerned about, means that we are looking at it in the background. But, of course, be careful. If someone looks and sounds sick, definitely don't go being in their face. If you need to
we know there is a look and a sound.
Yeah, somebody sneezing and coughing and running nose
sounding
and running
nasal,
eyes, sounding nasal and those things. And for those people who may be sick, we are encouraging you, whatever the illness may be, to still use a mask. If you are going to be out in public and around other people, keep washing your hands. Again, the washing of the hands is not just for COVID, because we had a time a couple months ago where we had other gastrointestinal issues because people were not washing their hands and they were dealing in food and other people were getting sick.
I remember when we had that conversation back then, yes. But so we are encouraging people to still do those cleanliness type of activities. But for COVID, for right now, the evidence is not showing that we have too much of a concern just yet.
However, if persons have to travel outside of the country, what do you recommend?
If persons have to travel outside, so if you're going on a plane, and again, you do... So there are several things. You kind of have to know yourself. If you're going on a plane, you know that you have comorbidities. So your body is already not the best. You know, you're already battling the diabetes or the whatever else you are already battling. And you are going on an enclosed place like a plane, then you could and you should wear your mask. And you may actually see your air hostesses and so forth wearing their mask on the plane. It is your choice. They even encourage you to put on the mask. But it is not a mandate anywhere where you must wear the mask. And recently, well, a couple months ago, we removed even the mask mandate for the health facilities. So you don't even absolutely need to wear the mask when you're going into a hospital or a health center at this point. Of course, this does not apply to the health professionals who would have to wear their PPE depending on where they are working and what they are doing. But even that, it's really up to you to determine what you think is best for you based on your specific circumstance.
Okay, so the onus is now upon you, the individual, according to you, to know yourself.
Yeah.
Should I not? The onus is on you. The responsibility
and of course, if you are on a plane and you notice a couple people right next to you sneezing and coughing and you have, put on your mask, do what you need to do at that point. So you should keep walking around with it, have a look at what is happening around, but there is not a requirement, a legal requirement to wear it.
Now, I traveled home a few weeks ago from the US, and I was on this flight, and there was a lady with 2 small children. One of them clearly had the flu, and she was coughing right through this 5.5-hour flight. Now, unfortunately, I did not have a mask. I couldn't even find anything to rub. But of course, persons kept looking around and wondering, but again, be prepared.
Be prepared, exactly.
I should have been prepared. I was not prepared. Yeah, but thank you so much. Viewers, we're going to be chatting with Dr. Faith B. as well when we come back from the break this morning. And the focus is going to be on the focus this morning is going to be on the OPR whistleblower platform. You want to hear more about this, so stay tuned and share the live, share the live, share the live.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union present the Edgar Davidson Bursary Awards 2023. Awards available are SEA, CSEC, and CAPE. Tertiary, technical and vocational. Your requirements are complete the application form, student's performance report, or transcript. Applicants must be a member or a member whose child wrote an exam in 2023. Forms are available via our website or can be collected at our branch office. For further information, www.mpcutobago.com, marketing at mpcutobago.com, or call us 639-8902 or 8375. Deadlines for submission 15th of September 2023.
So your car break down.
Oh, no, not again.
And you're worried paying a wrecker could mean a pocket breakdown too. But when you're insured with Tatil, no stress.
Yes!
A Tatil motor policy has lots of benefits that protect your pocket, like free roadside assistance that's free 24/7 every time, as many times as you need. Tatil, where people are people. A member of the Ansa McCall Group.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
So you've decided to speak up because you realize staying silent will cost this country millions and you want to do your part. But you may ask, what is the OPR's role when I speak up? Well, let's see. We begin with stage 1, the handling of your complaint. First, the whistleblowing reporting officer validates and assesses the urgency and impact of the whistleblowing complaint. He or she must ensure the details of the complaint are clear. This includes information such as the dates and times, the location, if there are any witnesses, and so on. Then, the whistleblowing officer confirms the reliability of the information. Now, depending on the information given within your whistleblowing complaint, it may be forwarded to a more relevant authority, such as the Commissioner of Police or Director of Public Prosecutions. And not because you decided to speak up and make a whistleblowing complaint, should you expect the alleged person to get locked up the next day. It doesn't work like that. The OPR will be guided by due process, which takes us to stage 2, investigating your complaint. How is the complaint investigated? Within 5 working days of receipt of the complaint, the whistleblowing reporting officer will acknowledge receipt of the complaint, update the whistleblowing log, and apply a file ID to each claim. Conduct an initial assessment of the complaint to determine the next course of action. The whistleblowing reporting officer will then investigate and gather additional information, document the findings of the investigation, then forward the findings of the investigation to the chairman of the whistleblowing committee. Your complaint, having reached the whistleblowing committee, is now in the final stage, stage 3, concluding the investigation and findings. Upon receipt of the report from the whistleblowing reporting officer, the whistleblowing committee reviews the findings and recommendations of the investigation. The committee then reports any legal or regulatory non-compliance to the OPR board and/or relevant governmental and/or law enforcement authorities to ensure corrective action is taken where appropriate. And upon conclusion of the whistleblowing committee's review of the report, the whistleblowing reporting officer shall report the outcome of the investigation to the whistleblower in writing once the report was not made anonymously. Millions down the drain.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We're still chatting this morning with Dr. Faith B. Israel, Secretary for the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. And at this point in the program, viewers, we focus on the OPR whistleblower platform. Dr. Faith, let's talk a little bit here about the OPR, and this is the Officer Procurement Regulation. What is the OPR's role when I do speak up? Right. So let's step back a little bit.
Okay.
Why, yes, the whistleblower component of it is this latest part of it, but this is all part of a larger mechanism to ensure that public procurement and disposal of public property is done correctly.
Above board,
yes. Many years ago, this process started as in this. So there was a new legislation that they started with many years ago. And finally, this year is when it came into being. So it was actually enacted. It was actually, the president actually signed and say, yes, we are using this mechanism to do all public procurement. What do we mean by public procurement? Any purchasing, whether it's of a good or service, done by a public body. What is a public body? All government agencies, so we're talking about Government of Trinidad and Tobago, Tobago House of Assembly, all state entities, so all of the state boards and so forth. It includes even any entity that gets funding from a public body. So let's say the THA gives a subvention to some other entity, that they now are required to use these laws, to use these rules, to use these regulations. Honestly, it turned our lives upside down.
How so?
Because the process for purchasing anything became difficult because it was a new system, and even though the regulations were there, many of the processes to implement the regulations were not there. So, for example,
Last week, I think, I'm not sure who it was, had a conversation with the Secretary with responsibility for education. And she spoke about the fact that even to do the school repair programs was an issue because one of the new requirements is that all of the contractors, so all of the service providers that we use must be in the new OPR system. It means that all of those contracts had to register with this new OPR system and must be within their system for us to be allowed to use them legally.
In other words, if they're not a part of the system or not registered on the system, they cannot be utilized.
They cannot.
There is no such thing as pulling in a relative, pulling in.
But even further than that, the Tobago House of Assembly, even before this came into being, actually had an office of the Procurement Control Office, PCO, where we had our internal THA registration process. And we actually said to the government, well, we already doing everything you said. There's already a list of contractors and suppliers and whatever. Can we simply import that list into your list? The answer was no. Everybody had to start from scratch. And every supplier, every contractor now had to go into their system to import their information and be registered using their system. We also had situations where our procurement officers at a very, for a very long time did not even have access to the system to say, well, if the contractor in their system. One of the things we also recognized, having spoken to our procurement people, legal people and so forth, is that the penalties associated with not doing, so this is where the whistleblower thing comes in as well. The penalties associated with not following the rules and the guidelines as outlined by this act were so onerous, were so high, and they now fell on the foot of the procurement officer, who is now classified as a named procurement officer. So if at health, for example, something happens, we try to procure something and is not done correctly, the procurement officer is the one who possibly had to go jail and pay $500,000 and all of that. So we had a situation within the Tobago House of Assembly when all of our procurement officers were like, hey, only a hold up.
Not going to jail for anybody.
I ain't going to jail for nobody. We're not sure what's going on. What do we have to do? Can we use this form? Things, it was, so there was an entire period where everybody was like, whoa, what is going on? Particularly since all of the pieces were not in, so the law was there, but all of the pieces were not necessarily in place to really implement the law as it was written. And this is why, again, all of the whistleblower part is important, but the context is critical. This is why in July, the said government of Trinidad and Tobago, who made this act a law in Trinidad and Tobago a couple months ago, went back to Parliament and say, this ain't working. This is not working. Let us amend it to say anything that is under $1 million, you don't have to go through that whole process, but we will make new regulations for anything that is under $1 million. The said government who put it in place went back to Parliament and say, hey, this is crippling purchasing of anything and everything. So let us go back and amend the document to say we ignore, in essence, the whole hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages that we said before for anything that is less than $1 million. And we will now provide new guidelines, new regulations for things that are under $1 million. If I'm not mistaken, we're still waiting for those guidelines.
And in the meantime, while we wait, how are we moving forward with regards? How? And you made mention earlier of the fact that the secretary with responsibility for education, this was some of the challenges, challenges faced with the reopening of schools and the inability to do a lot of the work ahead of time. If you realize it was maybe the last week, 2 weeks, and definitely the weekend before school opened, that a lot of stuff happened. And that happened primarily because what we did was say, okay, we have a special purpose company. They have a group of contractors that we know already are in the system because they were the ones who did helped us with BlackRock and that kind of stuff. Let us go to them through the special purpose company so that they can do the fixes that we need done. Couldn't happen. And that is how we were able to do all of those quick little things during the last week or so. And I thought it important that people really understood what was happening in the Tobago House of Assembly space that was preventing so much of the work that you think is normal activities. Let me even use my example at health. We actually have a situation where we have an emergency, and it was only because it was classified as an emergency, meaning the people, them children, gonna be in trouble, that we were able to fast track a process because there are provisions for emergencies in the Act. Now, this was before the amendment happened. Right. There are provisions for emergencies in the Act, and we could make the claim that this is an emergency that needed to be done, so we could have gone and used the regular mechanism that we were using before. Other than that, it would have been total standstill. Okay, very quickly here, Dr. Faith, a viewer on the live is asking, what about money owed to contractors? So the good thing about this new regulation, the monies owed to contractors will be paid if they are outstanding. Yes, we have outstanding monies owed to contractors, and those will be paid. Now, the good thing about this new regulation, though, is that part of the process for giving a contract is you have to prove that there is already money to pay for the contract. Right. That is one of the new things within this. There's no question after the fact, we're trying to find the money after the fact. You have to prove that the money is already there to pay for the contract. I know that for THA, we have outstanding bills. I have come and I have met outstanding bills that we've been paying along the way. So it's a matter of balancing, though. And this is from the previous administration. From previous administration. Right. Do you spend all of your money to pay old bills, or do you decide, let's pay some old bills, let's do some new stuff? Right. Because the other thing we would be accused of is, you're there for how much years and you ain't do nothing. Well, we ain't do nothing because we're paying old bills. So we kind of had to do this balancing act. But I know in every division, we have been looking at what bills are there, what bills come to our attention, because in many instances, I don't even know that a bill is outstanding unless somebody meet me in front of Penny Stevens and say, Dr. Faith, health, oh, miss, so, you know. And then I would come back and I would go through my officers. Let's pull up this file. Let's find this file. What's going on? And then you realize, it is sitting somewhere on somebody's desk or something and has not happened. Listen, this is a normal thing. I am so used to it that it used to anger me at first. But it's sad that you're getting used to it, and it's sad that you're accustomed to it, and it's sad that the Tobagonians whose businesses are suffering. And the thing is, the teacher gets the blame. Exactly. The teacher gets the blame. But I think my mindset on it now is thinking through what do we need to do to prevent that from happening in the future, and working out the systems within the division to prevent that from happening in the future. All right. But thank you. We've got to leave it there, and I wish that we had some more time. But certainly, Dr. Faith is always ready and available to be on the Tobago Updates morning show to answer and treat with any questions and issues out there in the public domain. So thank you again for being on the program, Dr. Faith. My pleasure. Viewers, we're going to wrap it up there. We've got coming up after the break this morning, Sergeant Joseph Jordan, as we focus this morning on the updates from the TTPS and the TTPS on school, children, and violence. We'll get more on that just after. So share the live, share the live, share the live.
put a smile on your face. When you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We're coming to you live here from the third floor, Portmore, Lower Scarborough, Tobago. And on the program at this time, we're chatting with Sergeant Joseph Jordan of the TTPS. And this morning, our focus is on the updates from the TTPS and the TTPS on school children and violence. Good morning and welcome to you, Sergeant Jordan.
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewing and listening audiences. Thanks for having the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service.
Always a pleasure to have you. This morning, you're not in uniform. Why is that?
Right. So recently, I would have changed department. So I am now attached to the 4th Squad Unit in the Tobago Division.
Which means that you are no longer required to wear?
No, it's a plainclothes unit.
Plainclothes unit. You remind me of an officer that I know I think was attached to that unit. Anyway, let's move on. Elton Richardson, good morning. Officer Elton Richardson, good morning to you. Let's give us an idea on, we're talking updates here, so give us the updates before we move on.
All right, so we will do our usual updates so we are going to look at our statistical period. So we're going to look at January 1st to September 2nd as relates to serious report crimes. So in the 2 years we are going to compare is 2022 versus 2023. So in 2022, we would have recorded 503 serious report crimes, whilst in 2023, we would have recorded 438, which would have shown a decrease of 16%. The Tobago Division detection rate stands approximately around 35%, which is somewhat very commendable in the sense that over the last few months, having presented this information to the public, we would have seen our statistics, our detection rate in particular, started around 27 to 28%. And a few months later, 3 to 4 months later, we are seeing an increase of 35%. And when we speak about detection, we are talking about crimes that would have been committed, serious reported crimes that would have been committed, and the police were able to solve them. So this is how we can measure our performance. I mean, 35% is, in some contexts, maybe low. However, there are many crimes that you don't get any information, persons are unwilling to come forward. So that in itself creates a challenge. As relates to the murder figure, now we would have recorded 9 murders for the year 2023, whilst for the same period, we would have only recorded 4. And it is unfortunate.
This is same period last year?
Yes, this is the same period that we are comparing. Unfortunately, those one murder, one too many. And I still want to extend my condolences to the families who have lost persons due to these senseless crimes. However, we continue to do what we need to do in order to bring the persons to justice. And out of those 9 murders, we would have been able to solve 3 of them. So the balance remain outstanding, but they are very much active. And I still want to implore the public to communicate or share information with the police through the 555 800 tips, the homicide division department in Tobago at 635-1649, because murders take a very long time when they're doing the inquiries, and it is something that we do not relent on. We continue to work to ensure that the victim the victim family can have some sort of redress, and the perpetrator don't feel that they can get away with such a gruesome crime.
Out of these 3 crimes that have been solved thus far, how many of them would have been solved as a result of tips coming in from either one of these sources?
Generally, we get information bits and pieces, and the use of technology. Most of the crimes that we actually solve into is through the use of technology, because what we find happening, members of the public are not willing to share information, and certainly we know because of the whole trust issue, persons who may not want to appear before the court or to assist in the inquiry. But there is a serious concern. If something happens to you as an individual, I'm certain that you would want help. And this is where the challenge continues to be in relation to the solving of crimes. But we still continue to ask, if you see something, say something.
All right. All right, and that's the update. That's an update there. Let's switch gears here as we focus a little bit on what's happening within the schools or school children and violence. And I wanted to keep the focus a little bit more on drug use in school. Talk to us this morning. Let me talk about drug use in school. How are they coming into the schools with it? How is it being detected?
Right. So we are into the second week of school. We are also, there are students who have left primary school and now going into the secondary school environment, which you're moving from, or you're moving into a more mature environment where there is greater influence in many aspects, greater peer pressure. You want to be part of this. There are sporting activities. There are social groups you like to be. And these things come sometimes with risk and unfortunate instances. What have drawn us to this topic this week is one where we had a report that is actively being investigated, where a student of a school came home and sometime later fell off the home balcony. Initially, it was considered a suicide attempt, but due to further investigation, it was understood that this child was given brownies at school and came home and was hallucinating. So probably they think they were walking in a space that doesn't exist. So that person has some injuries. So this is where this has caused us to go along the line of drug use. Now, the truth be told, many of us are, when we are offered things that we may accept.
Yes.
So we might have a discussion, hey, I have some brownies home, you're going to try some, so I'm going to bring some for you tomorrow, and persons may agree. But the drawback to that is their drugs affect persons differently. So you may have a brownie, nothing happens to you. Your other friend may have one and start to do things that is uncharacteristic of them. So accepting things from persons, drink, food, you must be very particular and do not engage yourself in drugs that are not prescribed to you by a doctor. It's one of the simplest ways to safeguard yourself when it comes to any sort of drug, because we have our gateway drugs. We start with our cigarettes, we start with our alcohol, and therefore we build on that. So we might graduate to marijuana, we may graduate on a combination of drinking, because alcohol use of itself is a very potent destructive aspect of our society, because persons sometimes mix their drinks, and that is what becomes very challenging in their state of alcoholism. So you might ask them what they drink and they can't tell you, because I drink this and I drink that, and
then I combined these.
So inside that you having a raging storm, because there are so many, as you say, different spirits, quantity, because I mean,
go ahead.
Because you're talking about a beer, then you might move to a wine, a rum, a whiskey, and all these things. So you have all these things going on inside of you, and clearly it's going to have an impact on you. And then you may decide to smoke a weed. And the issues continue. So children are exposed to these things. Now, brownies in particular, coming back to the issue of the brownies, many of these times, these things may be prepared by adults.
Yes.
And given to their, and they may give it them, or they might have it there, and the child might think it fit. They make a little piece for my friends and them. Or you would have advertised some brownies home, I will bring some for you all. And person will try these things, and then the impact on them is not the impact that we may wish for. It is very difficult for you to consume something, whether by smoking it, drinking it, and you have a gap in your memory. You wake up and then it's like, I don't know what happened for the last 4 or 5 hours. So a whole few hours of your life just
you cannot account for. Very, very quickly here, we need to go back to it seems as though we need to go back to the days of educating our children or training our children to not eat from strangers.
Right.
Eat what I put in your kit.
Certainly.
I grew up on eat what your parents gave you. There was no sharing of food or drink or snacks in my day.
Yeah.
Okay. And we probably need to go back to those days. In this particular instance, was the giver of the brownie aware that the brownie may have been spiked or laced?
Well, as I said, it's an active investigation, but I would
So we
just
can't comment too much on it.
So
Granted.
I would have just brought the
Scenario.
example
Right.
of sometimes these discussions take place prior to the consumption. So more than likely you might have been aware that this is brownie. And what is interesting with these type of drugs?
No, the thing is, Sergeant Jordan, there's brownies and then there
And there's
brownies, okay? So you got to know which brownie is the brownie.
And that's the point I was coming to. These things vary in potency. Because the type of marijuana that may be placed in it could be a synthetic one. It could have a number of variation. And some of the persons who uses these marijuana content, they are unaware as to what the content is, and it may be more potent than others. So do not take things from strangers that you're unaware of. And I would go a little further. If somebody is my friend, they would not give me something that is going to cause me harm.
True, but you know, we're living in an era where if ever this verse meant anything, it means it now. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, and they do foolish things.
Certainly.
And not saying here that they may not care about the friend, but I just want my friend to try it.
We all would have had that experience as young persons. But parents, we need to be aware as to what our children are doing. And observation, when children return from school or return from social events, parties, look
Pay
at
attention.
them. Because if you are drunk, you would see that they are drunk. If you are behaving in a strange way, it may not be alcohol, it may be some other drug. So parents need to be particular attention to their children, especially when returning home. We cannot take it for granted that, yes, the child might be about 16, 17, and they might be in a higher upper 6 and all these things, but the impact on these drugs can devastate their life. And further, what about you becoming caught up with the law?
Yes.
Destroys your future, right? So we employ our parents, our teachers, our social worker. Let us pay attention to our children. If they appear to be off track, let's bring them back on track with the necessary intervention. While the police, we will continue to do our part, because we will have our programs, because we have the child protection unit going out, having a discussion. We have the police, the community policing unit doing their thing. We have instances where schools and other agencies would make that call for a drug display to come and speak about the different types of drugs. Those services are available from the police service, and we ask person get in contact with us so that we can reach out there. Whilst we are doing our thing, we want you all to be aware, and we want you all to also share in the good things that the police service can offer to preserve and protect our young people and the society at large.
Most definitely. Thank you so much, Sergeant Joseph Jordan. Parents, put your picnic, sit down and talk to them about drug use. Speak to them, have the conversation, let them eat. If you're giving them a breakfast or lunch in their kit, let them eat what is given to them. There should be no sharing of food. We've got to go back to those days. No sharing of food, drink, or snack. Eat where your parents put. Okay? Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
He's ready to say afternoon. I tell you, you've probably been working for some hours now. It's still morning here, viewers. It's still morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Thank you again, Sergeant Joseph Jordan, for joining us for this segment. Viewers, lots more coming up this morning. In fact, when we come back from the break this morning, we will be chatting with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph. So share the live, share the live, share the live.
There's a new date for Tobago Swim Fest, September 17th, 2023. Come and witness the main event, the 4-kilometer swim from Pigeon Point to Buku Point. More than $25,000 in prizes. It's a family affair, so come out from 11 a.m. on the beautiful Buku Beach. There'll be swimming races, sandcastle building, and seafood on sale. Come and enjoy a fun day at the beach. Calling swimmers from Crown Point to Charlottesville. Registration on the day.
October will never be better with Tobago Carnival Fever. Okay, passage and come on over.
Coconut
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, and it is my privilege at this point in time to chat with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph. I went to school with her. I knew her back then as just Sheila Waldron. Now this morning we are chatting with Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph, Principal, Bethesda Government Primary School, and Bethesda Principal is now a PhD. Good morning and welcome, Dr. Waldron Joseph.
Good morning and thank you so much for those warm greetings, Ria, my classmate.
That's right. It's good to have you with us this morning. And I want you to start this morning by giving our viewers an idea of your journey from Sheila Waldron Joseph, and now Dr. Sheila Waldron Joseph.
Wow. Well, it has indeed been a journey. I mean, I started my career in teaching in 1998. And those days we had to go to Teachers Training College in Valsayn, and I would have journeyed to Trinidad, as those old people said, packing everything, and had to relocate to Trinidad in order to study for 2 years.
Right.
I would have completed my diploma in primary school teaching, came back to Tobago, and it was at that time they informed us that it will be in our best interest to do our Bachelor's of Education. I then pursued that with the University of New Brunswick via Roytech. After accomplishing that, my other colleague said, you know, that's it. It was a lot of work. And I said to myself, I am going to go forward. I remember my mother, now deceased, would have encouraged me. She said, isn't there anything else to do? And I said, yes, you can do your master's. And she said, then what? Get going. And I began that master's journey. Again, I was the only Tobagonian in my cohort. So I had to quickly make friends with my Trinidad counterparts. I would have journeyed to Trinidad weeks on end. I remember in the vacation when school closed, we used to have an intense program. So you had to pack up that Monday and head out. So I didn't have any vacation. Had to go to school, to NAPS, to Roytech, in order to meet with my lecturers, because those lecturers would normally come in from Canada.
Right.
And we had an intense, that was the only time you physically met your lecturer. You know, so we would have done that. I would have accomplished my master's. Again, I was the only Tobagoan. Those days were lonely days. Because in order to speak with somebody concerning the program, I had to call my counterparts in Trinidad, and they was really good to me. And after completing my master's, I said, you know what? I think the next step is my doctorate. There were times I thought about it. I said, nah. There were times I thought, and then finally, I got the courage to say, let me go forward. And I applied for my doctorate. I was accepted in 2018, August 2018 to be exact. I graduated with my master's October of that same year. So while I was graduating, I was already a doctoral student, already enrolled. Again, the story continues. I was the only Tobagonian, only person that took up that mammoth task of completing a doctorate in education. It was a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. I had no one with me. I had to quickly make friends again with people in other parts of the world. I had a special friend in Bahamas, and we studied together, and we did accomplish it. Zoom and WhatsApp were our best friends. Up to this day, I have not physically seen my friend, but we communicate like if we have known each other for years. She has been a strong source of support to me.
Now, Dr. Waldron, I want to know about the balance, how you were able to create that balance, because you said along the way you wanted to give up, and I'm sure that it was not easy because you were working at the time.
Yes.
You are a wife, you are a mother, you are, I know you function actively in your church. How were you able to create that balance?
It was God. Because sometimes even now when I look back at the things that I was engaged in while studying, and you're so correct, back then I was a teacher. I got the principal during the COVID period. So then I became a principal while doing this program. I'm an ordained reverend, so I preach in my church.
Yes.
Right? I am also on a board. I'm the chairman of a board, you know, and I'm a motivational speaker. I speak to persons. I had to go to school. I had to balance family. It was just God giving me that ability to balance because nothing fell through while I was studying. And you see, support, it's vital. I had the support.
And I know you mentioned your mother, and I knew your mom, and I knew your aunt, and they were very much on education.
That's right.
How did it impact you? Because you would have been studying while all of this was happening. It was just a few years ago that your mom and your aunt passed away.
Yes.
How did you cope? How did you manage with this?
It was, for me, a time of grief because the two ladies that really impacted my life, they went one after the next.
Yes. And they were very close. They were
very
really
close. Yes.
Yeah.
And imagine they died like that, bim and bam.
Yeah.
My mom went quickly after a short illness, and I had to deal with that. And as you rightfully said, in the midst of that, I wanted to give up. But I remember that I promised my mother that I will do this. So I could not give up. My aunt, I grew up with my aunt for a number of years. She was a stickler for education.
Remind our viewers which aunt we're talking about.
That aunt, the late Phyllis Armstrong, late school supervisor. I grew up with this aunt, and Rhea, she was a stickler for education. And really and truly, she was my role model. When I saw how she dressed and how she carried herself, I said to myself, even from a tender age, I want to be like you.
No nonsense.
No nonsense.
Push education.
Yes. And, it did not dawn on me that I would surpass what she would have accomplished in terms of the teaching and the teaching fraternity. But they were strong women, and I really thank God for that upbringing that I had from an early age. And even now, I'm instilling those same values in my own daughters.
Okay. No sons yet? All right.
None.
I don't think she paid attention to the yet part, but I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. But in terms of you having accomplished and acquired this position of your doctorate, you are principal of a primary school. How does this make a difference in the lives of your charges, your colleagues, those who you're in charge of?
Well, it really makes a great difference because while studying the program, the kind of courses that I was engaged in, human resource, people conflict, managing finances, all those courses, how to deal with alternative forms of assessment, how to deal with alternative forms of fundraisers. You know what we are? All those courses have a significant bearing on my leadership now because I was exposed to it. And even while I was doing this program, I remember one of our lecturers, Dr. Nurse, said that every teacher should have been engaged in a program like this because it exposes 22 courses, after which you wrote a book and you had to defend that book in order to get the okay from the university board. It's not an easy feat accomplishing a doctorate. It's a lot of work. I remember while studying, they would remind us, the lecturers would say, we didn't get this easy and you're not going to get it easy. So you knew it was coming.
Yes,
a lot of reading. You have to read articles upon articles because you had to write your own book. So I wrote my book. I spoke towards the impact of transformational leadership on teacher success.
You know, I'm looking at you here, and I'm also seeing hints of your cousin, Reverend. Is she Reverend now? Sheila Waldron Kinlock.
Charlene, sister.
Charlene, your sister. Right. Yeah, I'm looking at you, and I'm seeing so much of her. So much of her.
My sister.
Yeah. All right. And I tell you, two ladies who are just pushing the boundaries, really pushing the boundaries. Now, even as we're wrapping up here with you, what do you say to Tobago's young women, and in fact, Tobagonians on a whole? Because I often say the sacrifices that you would have made, having to go to Trinidad, having to leave your family, sometimes undone, I'm sure, to go to Trinidad, to push your education. Looking back, I mean, the sacrifice you say was worth it.
Yes.
But what do you say to Tobagonians who are looking on, and Tobago girls and our daughters who are looking on saying, I want to, but I can't. I want to, but I don't know if I can. What do you say to them?
I will say resoundingly, you can. You can. One, when I got engaged in this program, one of the things that got me very much terrified was the cost of the program, because the GATE program carries you up to the master's, half of it. But when it comes to the doctoral level, there is no assistance. But fortunately for me, I got a little minute assistance from data in the education. But I'm saying that money alone could have turned me from doing this program. And I'm saying if I was able to, I mean, I emptied all my reserves to do this. And I would say to every other person, every other young girl, you can do it. There are a lot of opportunities that have been opened to women on the international level, locally. And I'm saying to my fellow Tobagonians, grasp this opportunity. Seek for every opportunity to develop yourself. We are continuous learners. We are professionals, and we should try to be professional in every aspect. So I'm saying to young girls, you can, whatever is your dream, whatever you want to accomplish, go after it. God is backing you, and you will get the support, and you will be able to accomplish that.
All right. Now, Dr. Waldron, we're wrapping up here, but who are those persons out there that you'd like to publicly thank and send out some love to?
Well, I want to thank my husband, Waldron Joseph, who has been there with me through this 48 months. I want to thank my daughters, Jada.
48 months, that felt like more, right?
That felt like 98. I want to thank my daughters, Jada and Jade. I want to send out a big shout out to my father. I know he's listening now from the United States. I know he's locked on. I want to thank him for his support. I want to thank my friend, Dr. Fan Bo, out of the Bahamas. We stuck together too thick and thin. She has been a strong source of support. I want to thank my church family, Calvary Road Deliverance Tabernacle. Yes, I want to thank them for their support. I want to thank all my colleagues in education, the West Indies School of Theology. That is where I conducted my research. I want to thank them for opening their gates and allowing me to use them as my participants and use the school as my site. And to all my family members near and far, thank you. You have supported me. You stood by me. And I must say thanks this morning.
All right. Congratulations to you as well from the class of 89.
Yes.
Signal Hill Secondary School. We say congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, Ria.
All right, well, viewers, we're going to leave it there for today. We want to thank you so much for joining us. GMT is coming up, so you don't want to miss it with Candace. So we're going to say thank you again for joining us this morning, and we're going to head on over at this point to Tobago Notes. Have a great day, Tobago. Bye-bye.
Problem, because there's a program which falls under the Division of Settlements, Public Utilities and Rural Development called the Street Lighting and Rural Electrification Program, which aids in providing lighting to low-income households and communities. The latest community, Canaan Feeder Road Extension. The installation of 14 streetlights was carried out in partnership with the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission.
We are embarking on an aggressive rural electrification and streetlight installation program. Today, we are in Canaan Feeder Road, where we are installing 11 streetlights. These streetlights would bring much needed relief to the residents of this area. And after a while of being in darkness, I can safely say that you can get to their homes with some light.
But the street light will be good for us, because in the night, when we go out there to come in back, we have dark and they cut down the trees and it was so much tree that we could not see and nobody.
The installation of the lights cost approximately $161,309. For more information, feel free to contact the division at 612-4213.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
A brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise. The energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, your source for current affairs in Tobago, Trinidad, and the region. With the perfect conversations to complement your morning routine, I am Candace Jackson, and let's get started with the news in 90 seconds.
The news in 90 seconds is brought to you by Flow, working for you on Tobago's newest fiber network.
The MV Pledenora arrived in Port of Spain on Saturday evening. The vessel will operate in place of the MV Cabo Star, which has been out of service since August 23rd due to a fire. With only a tenth of the Cabo Star's capacity, this interim vessel completed an 18-hour journey from Venezuela, funded by the Bridgman Services Group, which is a broker of the Cabo Star. Lyle Alexander, the chairman of the Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, mentioned that the MV Pledenora and its crew require customs and immigration clearance, as well as certification to operate in Trinidad and Tobago, a process that may take some time. And now the cabinet is scheduled to embark on a retreat immediately after the ceremonial opening of Parliament. According to a press release from the Office of the Prime Minister, the cabinet is slated to begin a working retreat today. This retreat will take place at Cruise Inn in Chagaramas. It is scheduled to commence this evening and conclude by midday on Wednesday. Among the items on the agenda is the national budget, which is due to be read in a month's time. And finally, Public Utilities Minister Marvin Gonzalez criticized the management of the state-owned Water and Sewage Authority, WASA, for mismanaging the first phase of the Guapa-Capdeville pipeline project in Point Fortin. He expressed frustration at the project's 1 year and 6 month delay, calling it ridiculous. Gonzalez emphasized the need for better project management to minimize inconveniences for residents while improving water supply. He warned contractors of accountability and outlined plans for upcoming fiscal year, including drilling production wells and improving water to several areas. Opposition MP Barry Padarat accused Gonzalez of passing the blame and called for accountability in government policy and appointments to the WASA board. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
Tobago, after freeness is more speed and better TV. Get a free Samsung smartphone and free installation, plus 200 megabits per second, Paramount Plus, and more for only $299 with a select 200 plan from Flow. Visit online at discoverflow.co today.
Back to Good Morning Tobago. Yes, viewers, so we are discussing this morning, just the developments where the ferry situation is concerned, particularly the Cabo ferry. And we know that, the MV Pledenora is now back. Yes, I got it wrong again. Now back in in Trinidad, now in Trinidad and Tobago, not back, but now in Trinidad and Tobago, and hopefully we should see that vessel being put into service very soon. Of course, it needs the necessary certification before it can operate commercially in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's just the laws of the land. And hopefully we can see some relief. It wouldn't be the full relief we're looking for, but it should be something to carry us over. So joining on set with me this morning to speak to those issues is none other than Senator Lawrence Hislop. So a special good morning and welcome to you. How are you doing this morning?
Guys. I'm doing fine. I am not going to try and pronounce the name of the vessel.
Yes, and we see that you're all dressed and you're ready because this morning we have the ceremonial opening of Parliament to take place in just a few hours.
Yes, we should be done. I think we are starting at 1:30.
Yes.
So this is the beginning, this is the start of the 4th session of the 11th Parliament.
And I want to get your take on this whole matter, the fact that we are in this position again, unfortunately. I have to say again, because we were here in 2017. Now, granted that this situation is not quite as bad as 2017, but it is very reminiscent of that situation where the transport of cargo goods between the island is interrupted.
Well, it's unfortunate because we faced a situation in the country, on the island, where we had an incident, a tragic, horrific incident that couldn't have been worse if that was not managed. We had an incident on the cargo vessel where we had a fire, and so we had a situation where the vessel is out of service. But I want to remind Tobagonians that when you look at what is available, remind the country what is available. We are still able to move people and cargo between the two islands. I think 2017 was worse because we had a challenge with even our passenger ferries.
Yes.
But when you look at the capacity that is available today in 2023, we are still able to move significant cargo between the two islands.
Of course, but still not quite. I mean, what's happening right now, it's still not good enough for what the business community requires, because on the passenger ferries, we can only take 3-ton trucks.
Right.
A lot of the trucks that come up to Tobago on a regular are larger trucks.
Yes.
So now our business community are forced with having to try to find smaller trucks, try to figure out how you manipulating your goods and so on for it to come up. And then you don't even know if it's going to come up because it's being screened at the port, and the officials there make the determination as to which goods is essential enough to bring over.
Well, that's expected under the circumstances because this wasn't planned. And persons have to also remember that without the capacity of even 3-ton trucks, there will be absolutely nothing to move between the islands. I made this analogy to somebody recently. The vessel that has come as a stopgap is not ideal. And nobody's saying that it is ideal. But under the circumstances, it is a stopgap measure that can be used. And I use the analogy that if you're accustomed driving, and I wouldn't use the exact analogy that I use with the person. If you're accustomed moving a 10-ton truck or a 10-wheeler and something happens to it, and somebody gives you the opportunity, say, hey, listen, I know this is a situation, but I'll give you a 3-ton truck in the meantime. It means that you can still move your goods. You would not be able to move the majority that you would like to move, but something will still happen. And the analogy that I used to somebody when they complained about this new vessel, I said, if you're accustomed driving a BMW and something happens to it, and the company gives you a B14 to drive in the meantime, until the BMW is fixed. Are you saying to me that you wouldn't drive the BMW because somebody says we should have just remained with the existing capacity how we have been going for the 2 weeks?
Well,
and I think the last 2 weeks, as much as goods were coming to Tobago, anything in addition to what has been coming is a benefit. So this vessel, as much as it may not be the ideal thing, it still gives the hardware to be able to bring significant construction material, blocks and steel and so on, as well as the containerize the cargo. Because there are businesses that depend on, let's say, for instance, your feed depots. I know the largest feed depot on the island usually transports his feed via containers. And so he's at a point where he has to be limited in terms of bringing it on trucks. He's not able to bring the volume. And if you have a vessel now for 10 days that could bring the containers until the Cabo Star comes back into service, I think that's additional capacity.
But that's still to come on stream, because as it is right now, that vessel is not yet able to do that because it requires the certification.
Right.
But we didn't need to be here, because back in 2017, when the situation came about, there was a plan. We get 2 new additional ferries that was specially built. Of course, it took a few years to build, as
the passenger
natural,
ferries.
as it is. But there was also the promise of we needed to have a cargo ferry, because we contracted the Cabo Star. It was a 2-year arrangement, and there was a provision for additional year. And then that contract just kept getting renewed, and it was no conversation about a specially built cargo ferry, as was promised for Tobago.
So let me ask you something, Candice. Even if we had a specially built cargo ferry for Tobago and something happened to the ferry, we would have been in the same position.
No, we would not. No, Mr. Because that's why we had the TNT Spirit. Because the TNT Spirit was supposed to be the backup, and the TNT Spirit can actually take larger trucks. So had the TNT Spirit not been done right now, we would have been able to...
Candice.
No. This was the explanation that was given, because I was a part of the talks back then. This was the assurances given from the government at that point in time, that we would have the TNT Spirit as that backup vessel.
But the TNT Spirit has always been a passenger ferry, and it would have the same weight restrictions.
Not necessarily, because the TNT Spirit can actually take larger trucks, as opposed to the 2 new ferries that we have right now.
But the TNT Spirit...
But these are facts.
Hold on. The TNT Spirit will still not be able to take trucks the capacity that a cargo vessel can.
Well, it would not be, but it would still be better than what we have right now.
Candice, we're dealing with what we have. And I'm saying to you that even if we had a purpose-built cargo ferry, because I hear the argument that if the Tobago House of Assembly was in charge of the ports, we wouldn't be in this situation. The reality is that this was an unpredictable situation.
That's why you have a contingency plan.
Right,
and the TNT Spirit was supposed to be the contingency plan, but it continues to be under repair.
The TNT Spirit cannot be your full contingency plan for cargo. Simply the fact that the TNT Spirit as well is unable to pull your containerized cargo.
Yeah, because right now it's down.
No, even if it was in service, Candice, it could not pull your containerized cargo, because you can't pull the flatbeds onto the TNT Spirit. You see, you have the same... Yes, the TNT Spirit may be able to carry, and I'm saying based on what you just said, slightly larger trucks than the Book Reef and maybe the APT James. But you can't compare what a cargo vessel, the capacity of the Cabo Star, is able to pull versus what your aluminum hull, smaller fast ferries would be able to pull. You can't compare that.
So where are we now in terms of, let's say, getting that TNT Spirit back on stream, so that just in case we have another situation like this, we don't have to wait for a vessel to come from Venezuela?
Well, and you make that vessel coming from Venezuela sound as something really terrible. The reality we have to face is that vessels aren't... This is not a rental company. You know. Vessels aren't cars. So when a vessel breaks down to the position that the Cabo Star was broken down, you can't expect that you'll pick up the phone in the morning and call a rental company and say, I need a vessel. So it was what was available in a short space of time that could have done what you require. It's not exactly what you want, because obviously it's a smaller vessel, it's a different configuration. But I'm going back to the point that you're still able to pull your containerized cargo as well as loose construction material, and you will continue to pull your food stuff on your passenger ferries. So I can't speak to when the TNT Spirit will be back in service. That's a consideration or question you'll have to pose to the line minister. What I know is that in terms of the repair of the TNT Spirit, it requires the dry docking service at Chaguaramas and so on. And that is being treated with as soon as possible so that we can service our own ferries in Trinidad and Tobago as we have accustomed to over the years.
Now, the Port Authority also last week, when I had a conversation with them, they told us that they don't have a strong Tobago representation on the board. And that was something coming out of the 2017 situation, that there were assurances from the government. And when asked, Mr. Lyle Alexander could say that he has no power over that. That power lies with the minister. So what is your role in advocating so that we have the necessary representation on these boards that are so crucial to the way we live here in Tobago?
Well, neither do I have the power. Just as Mr. Alexander, I don't have the power to determine who sits on our board. But this is where our leaders in Tobago ought to have the required conversations with ministers in Trinidad to say to them, listen, this is what we would like to see happen. Make representation. That's why you are the leaders of the Tobago House of Assembly. That's why you're the leaders of Tobago. Make representation for a greater seat at the table, at the discussion. But I want to go back to the point that whether or not you had 10 people sitting on the board from Tobago, if you had a situation where your main cargo ferry has a catastrophic incident, you are going to have reduced capacity. You can't compare 900 trucks or 400 trucks that the Cabo Star is able to carry. 400 trucks at undetermined weight or weight that you have no limit, unlimited weight. You can't compare that to other ferries that you may bring into the space. You definitely lost capacity, and I still want to compliment the workers at the port and even the management at the port. I may not have agreed with how they spoke to the public at the press conference, but I want to compliment the port for the level of work that they've put in, the staff and the management, to make sure that we still have goods and services moving between Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, well, we're going to take a pause right there and go to a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
New dawning as the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to $15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment for self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure, bank statement, 12 to 18 months, other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108, or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loan@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
Summerama, real steam for the summer at Standard. Is a dream for the summer. Dreamy, steamy, Standard. What you have? All the best deals, no drama. Standard be beat like a hammer. Go tell your friend, tell your papa, tell your mama. We got more. Standards have what is searching for. Quality brand, discounts galore. New things for the summer, online in store. Summertime is here, so make the most out of it at Standard. Never beating on quality and price. It nice.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace Astanasia.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawn.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Well, viewers, before we went to the break, we were just discussing with Senator Lawrence Hislop, the Honorable Mr. Senator Lawrence Hislop, and we were speaking about, having more representation of Tobago on the boards and so on. And Mr. Hislop said that it should be for the THA to make that representation, or to petition, have the conversations to allow them to have a greater seat on the board, on those boards. Now, I want to ask you, Senator Hislop is advocating for Tobago, greater Tobago representation on a board such as the Port Authority. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you do?
That's a conversation I could have. That's a conversation I could have with a senatorial colleague. That maybe what we need to look at is instead of 1 or 2, you have 3 representatives on the board from Tobago. That's
so
a
are you going to
conversation.
do that, or is that something
That's a
that...
conversation that can happen, Candice. All I'm saying is
So
that...
you're not committing to it?
No, hold on. I've never said that I'm not committing to it. What I'm saying, outside of even my representation, we have elected officials in Tobago with the responsibility that can have a conversation. The same conversation I am having with the minister, that conversation can happen from a chief secretary standpoint, or even or even the secretary of transport can have a conversation with the minister to say, listen, minister, we want to have a greater say in the decision making as it relates. And bear this in mind that the Port Authority is not only responsible, the Port Authority Board is not only responsible for the inter-island transport. The Port Authority Board is responsible for the entire management of the port. We have to remember that some of the key people on the port operations between both Trinidad and Tobago are Tobagonians.
Yes,
Right?
certainly.
And that is why I said we ought to compliment the port for what it has done in a situation that was unexpected.
So, and they did admit that they did their best, but they also said that there's only so much they can do, and the rest of it is for the minister to do, or the minister to allow in terms of funding to allow, the repairs that are necessary on the TNT Spirit, as well as fixes for the ticket system.
Right.
Because I'm not too sure if you are aware, you can't book advance on the ferries.
Well, the reality is everything in the country requires funding at some point. And yes, the ministers are responsible for that. But I also think that based on what resources we have, I heard somebody say recently that the ferry service is extremely inefficient. And I want to debunk that. I want to say that over the last 5 to 6 years, the port, let's talk after 2017, and let's talk about the level of efficiency that we've had on the inter-island ferry service. We have had more up times than down times on the port. The only time we complain about the port is when something breaks, But we don't compliment the port when it's working. We don't compliment when the ferries are basically, we have more capacity than we need in a lot of instances. We don't say that. We don't say those things that outside of our peak travel, that the ferries run practically empty, but the ferries still run. We don't talk those things. We have become a people that are ready to complain when something doesn't work as effectively as we would like it to work. When at some point in time, we have to understand that we should give kudos. We should give credit where credit is due. You're talking about a cargo vessel that runs clockwork every night, has capacity that sometimes is not even, that most times is not even used fully. The inter-island ferries, the passenger ferries that leave clockwork at 6:30 and 8:30 and sometimes run without full capacity.
I've noticed this languaging and this narrative coming from central government as that because there are sometimes it's not all the capacity is not used, whether it's on the air bridge or the sea bridge. It's almost used as an excuse to say, hey, we're working well. I mean, you don't need to complain as much. But when the reality is that when you speak to people whose lives are basically on these ferries, that they go back and forth all the time. The truckers, for instance, I mean, I'm not sure if you've actually spoken to the truckers, but I've spoken to them quite a lot over the past few years. And what they go through is not easy at all.
So Candice, what I could tell you, at one point in time, I had a 3-ton that used to do inter-island transport, right? I am affiliated to a company that transports material on the boat almost every night. So I'm fully aware of what happens on the port, right? In terms of the transportation of goods. But I'm saying to you that 95% of the time, or even more, I'm sure if you check the stats, the efficiency of the inter-island service is, we in Trinidad and Tobago have grown so accustomed to a service that is, when you look throughout the Caribbean, that there are other islands that cannot boast about 2 fast ferry services that run simultaneously, right? We talk, the cargo capacity as well. You go to other islands, sometimes the ferry travels once a week. Sometimes the ferry travels once a week in these places. And it's because of, there are varied reasons, and sometimes you can't make the comparison. But all I'm saying to us as a people is when you look at how much uptime you have on your inter-island sea bridge as compared to your downtime, I think the uptime far exceeds the uptime far exceeds the downtime.
So what should Tobagoans think now? I mean, we're at a situation here, we see a lot of the grocery stores, a lot of people are complaining that, you know, the stocks are really low and the impact that that's having on the economy. I mean, the business sector, they are really stressed right now. This whole situation has frustrated them, and it is making the business difficult. So, you know, when we want to try to bolster our private sector, it seems as though they continually taking hit after hit after hit that prevents them really from being as successful as they can be. So what should be the reactions now?
But the reality for me, I live here. So I experience this. I've worked in certain sectors that have been intimately involved with the inter-island transport. And so I get it, and I understand it, and I feel it, right? But, and I shouldn't say but, in addition to that, what we have to look at is how can we create capacity on the island so that we are not as, quote unquote, so dependent on a truck moving from Trinidad every day in order for us to get goods. And if by half week, if we don't have that service, we start in the crisis. What we have to look at from a business perspective, and even as well from a political perspective, is how do we then build capacity on the island? Not only capacity to create goods and services here, but also to store, to create capacity for storage, to create capacity in the event of something. Because this, we have to look beyond a situation with a boat. Let's say, for instance, God forbid, we have a natural disaster and we cut off from Trinidad or from the rest of the world. How then do we take care of ourselves for a period of time until services can be reestablished? And so we have to look at, and one of the things that I felt that's required as well is for the business community to come together and to create greater storage capacity. I know warehousing is a cost, right? But create greater storage capacity on island, which would then cause you to increase your haulage capacity, so that instead of moving 5 trucks every night of one capacity, you may be able to move 2 trucks every night at a larger capacity because you have storage, and not a situation where we just bringing over goods for them to roll out of our warehouses by the next day. And so we always have that revolving door that we keep just moving trucks back and forth on the port.
Certainly. All right, well, viewers, I want to thank you so much, Senator Lawrence Hyssop, because you got to go on your way to Trinidad
Yes.
now to represent us in Parliament as we open the new session of Parliament. So I want to thank you for being on with us and having this conversation with me.
No problem.
All right, viewers, so please don't go anywhere because we got a lot more coming up for you after the break.
Passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. On Tobago Updates, viewers, we are going to be joined right now by Dr. Winford James, who is a political analyst within our space. Good morning and welcome to you, Dr. James.
Good morning, Candice. How have you been?
I've been great. Now, so great to see you this morning. Now, we have so much happening within our space, especially politically. We had the outreach from Mr. Watson Duke last week saying that, he wants to reconcile with the chief secretary and so on. Of course, we have not heard any response or seen any response or any attempt to have that meeting to reconcile with Mr. Duke from Mr. Augustine, the chief secretary, Fali Augustine. So I just want to get your take on this whole matter. What do you think about the reconciliation outreach?
I imagine those who are in politics must be optimistic all the time. And Mr. Duke apparently is optimistic that change will come that will fix the problem that developed between himself and the rest of his party that are the House of Assembly, the other 13 members of the House of Assembly. So something is broken. And Mr. Duke, in talking to the public recently when he made his call for a reuniting of but I don't know if the other members are still a factor so that we can say there's a reuniting between Mr. Duke and himself, but certainly the former members of the party. And he's thinking that, look, if we're going to beat the PNM in 2025, if we are going to beat the PNM, then we have to come together. There's no way we can beat the PNM if we are as splintered as we have become. And yet, when he made that point, he was saying, look, I have sent out a letter to the chief secretary, and I haven't had any response. But he was disrespectful in talking about the fate of the letter, because the public got the sense that the letter had not gone out too long before he was informing the public of its submission to the chief secretary. But he was disrespectful in saying, I didn't expect that to happen. In fact, he was diffident. He was distrustful of the success of his letter. And you begin to ask yourself, why did you send the letter if you had no belief that things could change? Was it simply to put it on the record that he was the one doing the reconciliation? And Mr. Duke displayed a convenience of memory. The convenience of memory. He forgot conveniently that he was the prime destroyer of the PDP in the House of Assembly. He's the one who resigned from the position of Deputy Chief Secretary. He's the one who was planning to fire everybody. He was the one who talked about how the people of Tobago voted him into office. He's the one who owns the party. Now you have 13 other people in the House belonging to the PDP at that time saying, look, we don't want to have a part of you, so we are going to resign from you, resign from the party, which of course is the same thing as saying they resign from Mr. Duke himself personally. So his focus shifts. He spent some time in Trinidad, and he's trying to build a following on the eastern corridor. He's trying to build a following in depressed areas in Trinidad, sea lots, parts of Laventille. And he lost badly in the local government House of Elections, lost his deposit and so on. His people lost their deposits. And now he's saying, okay, that's gone. Let's focus on the general election, the parliamentary elections. And we've got to come together. And he conveniently forgot that he was the chief destroyer of what he and the others had striven to build, and that resulted in the people endorsing him, the party and his personnel, of course, for all but one of the seats, 14 out of 15 seats. That had been built up, but because of Mr. Duke's behavior, he alienated his colleagues to the extent that nobody in the House of Assembly that had been voted in, of course, in the elections of December 2021, nobody sided with him. Nobody agreed with him. But now he returns, and it's almost as if he doesn't understand that people have sensibilities, they have feelings, and they have memory. He behaves in the news conference as if, well, the natural thing is for you guys to repent for what you've done, and let's push on.
Now, Dr. James, do you think that the Chief Secretary should respond to the letter for reconciliation in light of everything that you've said? Do you think that he should attempt to meet with Mr. Duke and reconcile?
Candace, let me tell you something. There are some things that can't be fixed. There are some letters that you cannot respond to and should not respond to. And I think, I can't speak for the Chief Secretary, but I doubt, from what I know of him and his colleagues in the House, I doubt that they're even giving the letter any regard. I think they understand that Mr. Duke is looking for oxygen, political oxygen, to carry on and to go forward. And they're not about to help him, help provide him with that oxygen. I don't know that these guys still think that there is a certain credibility where Mr. Duke is concerned. I think they think he's bereft of all credibility. That's my observation. He's bereft of all credibility, and they're not going to give him the time of day. He's got to build his own different kind of politics on his own. From scratch again, it appears, because it doesn't seem to me that people have any regard for this man after what transpired between himself, the Chief Secretary, and what people are calling his friends. No, I don't think I personally don't think he should respond, but it doesn't matter what I think in that regard. Farley doesn't think that he should respond, and the amount of time that has passed since the submission of the letter was announced tells us that they have no interest dealing with Watson Duke.
Now, let's turn our attention now to some of the situations that are happening within our space, and that kind of has to do with the sea bridge problems we are experiencing. We just had a conversation with the Senator, Mr. Lawrence Hislop, speaking to the matter and so on, saying that, we're still in a better situation and we need to be appreciative of what we have. We also said that there needs to be advocacy from the Chief Secretary and the THA in regards to better representation on boards like the Port Authority and so on, and those places that have a direct impact on Tobago. What is your view on these matters?
Let me ask you let's come back to the issues you have just raised and ask you to tell me, what is the connection that has been made by whomever, by Mr. Duke, by whomever? What's the connection that has been made between his call for the party to reunite and the problems on the port? I'll come back, as I said, to answering those questions. But what is the connection that has been made between those two things? I think you said that.
well, I was not attempting to make a connection between those statistics, but just try to get your comments
I mean,
on the
I could
matter.
understand you. We can speculate about that. But I didn't hear any connection being made between the need for the party, the current assemblyman in the House of 13, and Mr. Duke himself. But to answer the question now, well, I heard part of the interview between Lawrence and your good self. And so, obviously, Tobago is not in charge. The House of Assembly is not in charge legally now, but administratively, although the fifth schedule seems to indicate that they should be in charge. But the House of Assembly, so far as we all know, is not in charge of the operations of the ports, whether in Tobago or Trinidad. It's not responsible for buying boats. It is not responsible for putting boats on dry dock. It's not responsible for developing schedules with respect to when the cargo boats should run, whether they are in good health in order to run. Those things that are coming from decisions made outside of Tobago, made elsewhere. And I'm one of those guys who believe that I can run my business better than you can. And so decisions are made with respect to what is happening on the ports, which decisions are made by people other than the political representatives of the island. Now, so that's an area that needs to be legally fixed. Now, but Mr. Hislop did make a very good point when he said that there have been more ups than downs, more uptime than downtime. And he's saying about 95% of what is happening on the port is good. Well, it's only good if you stick to one kind of politics, and that's the politics of dependency. It's good if you're saying, well, the Prime Minister bought 2 boats, and we should be satisfied with that. But the cargo boats don't seem to be running, and sometimes the boat does not run at full capacity. But we have become accustomed to the boat running at full capacity for quite some time. We are accustomed having 2 boats operating simultaneously, as he put it. And so we expect that state of affairs to either remain or improve, not to retrogress. So, but what Mr. Lawrence Issop did not do is to put it into a historic, what is the comments he was making, to put those comments into a historical context and to say that it is the PNM that has been in charge of what has happened at the ports in the country forever since, from as far as we know ourselves. I don't know of anybody else that has been responsible for the operations of the boats, of the ports. I don't know that. And the question is whether how much longer does Mr. Hislop and others like him expect Tobago to wait for a state of affairs on the port where things move with the kind of dispatch and the kind of efficiency that we would like to see happen. It's not simply what is happening now, but that this thing has been going on for a long, long time. And lots of us, we hear these comments and we are saying, oh, what are these guys? What is it they want to create? Are they able to create, having been given the opportunity for so long to get things fixed, and we still don't have those things fixed, and they present themselves as being what, credible candidates? I think not.
Right.
So I came up on the boat last week myself to the Tobago, and there were a lot of spaces. I do not know why. I do not know why people on the day that I traveled were not more plenteous. I really don't know. But yes, what I do know is that nobody can come to me and tell me that they can run my business better than I can. And we have been, the seabridge has been made a kind of an umbilical cord by P&M administrations. They're the ones that have been in charge, Candice, and they have made the bridge into an umbilical cord, with Trinidad being the mother and Tobago being the child, having to depend on Trinidad for its sustenance.
Well,
You
Dr.
know,
James?
Mr. Hislop talks about storage space and all that sort of thing, Candice. I mean, I told you I listened to part of the conversation both of you are having. Storage space, business community coming together and establishing, not only bringing stuff to Tobago, but keeping stuff in Tobago through storage media, storage capacities, and so on. So that becomes a very heavily political issue that a youngster like Mr. Hislop cannot escape, he and his party cannot escape from. We don't run our own affairs, Candice, and it has been so for a long time.
All right. Well, Dr. James, we are unfortunately out of time for this interview. And but I really do want to thank you for your perspective on the matter, on these and some other matters within our space. So yeah, so thank you again. But we have to go for a break now.
Thank you and have a good day, Candice.
All right, you too. All right, viewers, so don't go anywhere. We got more coming up for you.
Rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and
Inner Health, number 13B Portmore, Scarborough, Tobago, with over 25 years experience offering services in and not limited to microscopic blood analysis, reflexology, and the sale of a wide range of organic herbal products used to supplement thyroid, lymphatic, heart, kidney, and brain health, and the male and female reproductive systems. Come and chat with us. Remember, your health is your wealth.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are chatting this morning with Mr. Sean Roberts, who, let me just make sure I get the title just right, and he is the head of the Tobago Recycling Resource Initiative. So special good morning and welcome to you.
Morning, Ms. Jackson. Morning to Tobago, Trinidad, the rest of the world. Share the life, share the life.
Great.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, we continue to see success, or at least advances, and improvements in the way that we are trying to incorporate this recycling culture here in Tobago. And so there is some exciting things coming out. So recently, you had even bigger shipments of recyclables going out.
Yeah, this year have been started off pretty good. You know, we did a few shipments of cardboard. Now we had done some plastics as well, film plastics. I mean, we had some more shipments were scheduled just before independence, but unfortunately due to what happened with the inter-island cargo ferry, you know, that sort of delayed our stuff. I mean, we had a shipment on board as well, an export, and we have had to, unfortunately, spend all of the Friday unpacking and restocking and stuff. But, you know, such is life, you know.
All right. So we're moving from not just, as you said, you're moving to cardboard as well, right?
Yes.
So we've been collecting our bottles and our cans, but we're trying to improve the collection of cardboard and so on. Tell me about just the importance of that.
Well, in fact, because of the primary objectives to be 50% wasteless by 2025 and zero waste by 2030 as part of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're not only targeting the plastics, the Tetra Pak, glass bottles, and metal cans, we also target the solid waste organics like the cardboard, paper, even the food waste, sargassum, you name it. So we have to attack all waste possible. And with the solutions that are available, we have to make sure that that we can process all of these wastes. So that turns into resource.
And as part of that, we also have the Tobago Biodigester launch project that's coming up. What is this?
Well, in fact, actually, we commissioned the first one at MIC Tobago campus last Friday, right? That's a project with the Rum and Sargassum Inc. from Barbados. Us at Recycling, Waste and Logistics, the MIC Institute of Technology, and the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute. So the hotel school will actually be the next host site for the next biodigester that is here. Actually, that project involves the consumption of the sargassum, wastewater, food waste, certain types of animal waste. And what happens with that when you combine these substrates, when it digests, it breaks down, it forms a gas, a natural gas, and that can be reused for cooking, even for metal fabrication applications, and also biomethane that can be able to produce the power for various electricity-related consumption. So actually, Tobago is fortunate to be one of the first testing grounds within the Caribbean to do such project. And because it's a solution that consumes as part of the TRI food, organics, and biomass waste recovery system program. So that is one of the solutions that we have implemented. So what we'll do during the next few weeks from then on, we are going to update you guys on when the first set of gas is being produced. That is where you all can be able to come and witness the actual production of the biogas here in Tobago.
And so what's the end goal for this project? Is it to just a form of renewable energy at the end of it?
Yes, it's the actual form of renewable energy. You see, right now, and even years before, we only focus on the energy that is sitting out at sea, but we have it right here on land. So if we can be able to start capturing the resources and processing it into, the necessary energy without extracting it from the environment, then at least that is another step towards our sustainable development goals. So that is why we have to look at self-sufficiency, because even though the cargo ferry, actually we're experiencing that situation where due to its absence, usually people might find I kind of crazy, but I look at these situations as opportunities where we can start to now be resilient and start to create our own resources right here on the island, so that if any situations like that happen, for example, like if, let's say, the ferry that brings the gas to Tobago for NP to be able to make available in the form of cooking gas, if, let's say, that happens, at least we have an option where we can be able to provide supply, so that at least we don't have any downtime in regards to that. See, people thinking I'm more of goods and services, but they have to study about energy independence as well. So that is something that we have to start moving in that direction, where we have our own resources in the Tobago space, so that at least we can be able to survive in the interim until we can be able to, resolve any other hiccups or mishaps and stuff. Yeah.
Now, the TRRI, has been been doing some outreach in the communities recently. So we're seeing you popping up at different areas doing educational drives. Tell me a bit about that. Tell me a bit more about that.
Actually, I must say thank the people of Tobago, in the Tobago space, when we actually had the first set of pop-up series in the last week in April into the whole of May. We were in Mount Pleasant, Bonaccord, Lambo, and even we wrapped up in Castara in the north side. And we must say that the response has been good. People are becoming more aware. If you notice, the 40 bins are falling faster than, in some areas, especially in the southwest, faster than expected. So the last one that we participated in was the IDB THHFA at the Esplanade. I must say that was pretty exciting. And actually, we used that opportunity to start to continue the introduction of reusable shopping bags to the public. We had some exciting games and stuff where the people of all ages were able to participate, where they learned to put the right waste material in the right bin. So that one was fun as well, but it was also a learning experience as well. Yeah.
So where would we be seeing you next?
Well, we actually have collaborated with the Tobago Library Services. So actually, we had already started the first set of training series with the different departments, and that is going to continue during this month. So through the activities, actually, we actually had planned some, a series of activities with the Tobago Library Services, because there are different parts of Tobago. So what we'll do is that we are going to actually have different activities where we're going to see, soon, where persons have the opportunity to use recycled content and produce, different types of products where it can be showcased, exhibited, and where people can have the option, if possible, monetize it, And it's things like those is what we're doing. Because I know in October we're supposed to have another event at the library that will be available to the public, because we haven't really done much action in the capital city, besides the Esplanade. So we're going to go more on the library side, which is at Garden side. So that one, we'll keep you posted on that as well, because we'll have a lot of different, upcycling, persons who do stuff here in Tobago. We want to plan to showcase. So actually, we have already, benchmark activities right up till next year, June, with the library services.
Tell me about some of those upcycling activities that's happening among our people.
Well, right now we have a group of young entrepreneurs who actually started the production of upcycle bins using the wooden pallets. Actually, those bins are being sponsored and placed at schools. Right now we have one at Signal Hill Secondary School, one at Roxborough, next one at the Hotel School in Lemon. So the next step, we are looking to place more bins, even private guest houses and stuff order those bins. So actually, that is one of the main upcycling projects actually we had enabled. The group of guys, they came to us with the idea. So we make sure and facilitated the material. Even the carnival costumes, Carnicycle, they are our partners as well. They recover carnival costumes from Trinidad and any place that have carnival activities. So a lot of it is stored at the TRI Recycling Center in Shore Park. And they actually disassemble all the costumes, and the raw materials developed from that is being resold back to mass bands. So that, is slowly taking off. And even the recovery of textiles and stuff is something that we recognize that is important, because now the importation of costumes and sourcing raw materials, you know, when they realize we're covering it and we can get it right here, even upcycled jewelry are being produced from that as well. So even things like those, we try as much to showcase to the public as to see the kind of activities taking place here in Tobago in regards to the use of recycle. Even at Bishop's, we had supported the environmental club where they did fashion design and production from recycled content as well. So things like those is what we want to push the button and expand as much as possible. And we'll be going around and at least we trying to be present at more schools to be able to get these students, because even at the chair fair, we realize a lot of the school children are being excited about recycling. When it was World Environment Day, we had hosted about over 13 schools at the facility. They got the experience where they practice sorting and actually loading the material in the machines.
Yes, and pressing the button.
Pressing the button, controlling the stuff. They actually say, I want to work in this kind of plant, you know. So it's things like those we are expanding the practical tours. Even the office, the Prime Minister, the CAST office, the interns actually came at the facility and was able to see actual what is going on. So they actually wanted to return and get that hands-on experience as well. So we're trying to make it, you see, the more practical it is and hands-on, that is where people have an appreciation for what happens with your recyclables.
Now, do you think that we are starting to see a change in our society when it comes to how we treat with our waste, especially recyclable waste?
Yes. Well, in fact, I must say that since November 2020 till now, I must say that we have progress, and we are progressing pretty good. Yes, in some of our, we have had to relocate 3 of our drop-off bins. We had moved one from Storby and actually placed one at Blue Horizon in Mount Irving, because that hotel facility actually mandates their guests to recycle. It had another one we had relocated from Waves in Grafton, that is up at Tamarind Square at the Old Market car park. And then the other one that we had relocated as well is now at the Mount Irving Beach Restaurant and Bar, newly refurbished. Even for the Commonwealth Games, we had placed bins at the hotel. So the athletes who were at the Commonwealth Committee was happy to see that recycled bins and stuff is around, and the material is actually being collected and diverted to the recycling center. So it's more of those engagement activities is what we have to keep doing. Public education is something that never stops, it's continuous, and every stakeholder we can engage. In fact, the CAS had a recycling drive competition that run from World Environment Day right up till run for about 3 months. So we collected about over 150 bags.
Yes.
So they actually continuing for weekly pickups and stuff. So we're trying to get, every stakeholder that is coming on board. We're going to work with you, and we're going to make sure that at least the whole of Tobago adopts. Yes, we get challenges where people put other stuff in the bins, right? But it's something that is not going to fully evolve overnight, but you have to be
something
constantly
to work on,
pushing the button and reminding people, these are the materials that are accepted. So try, even garbage collectors, I know sometimes you have a challenge where the garbage collectors may not be able to move on schedule, which is understandable, because I will tell you, waste collection is not an easy operation because you're moving parts. But at least if your garbage truck can come on time or can come on schedule, just separate your recyclables, hold it for a little bit, and find the nearest recycle bin. That is all we ask of you.
All right, great. So, and of course, viewers, if you have recyclable material, whether it be bottles, whether it be metal cans, Tetra Packs, that's your milk containers and so on, and your juice containers, whether it be cardboard or even plastics, the cellophane plastics that you come wrapped around your products, all of those can be recycled, and they are accepted at the TRI warehouse, and there are bins located throughout the island at grocery stores and so on. So just package them, drop them there, or take them into Shore Park. And yes, let's see how we can make Tobago a cleaner, greener, safer, serener place. All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Roberts, for being on with us and for sharing these initiatives. And we at Tobago Updates are going to be showing you more of those things, and we will get more into those things when we in the near future.
For sure.
So you're gonna want to look out to see the developments that are coming out of the recycling initiative here in Tobago.
Thank you.
All right, viewers. So thank you for being here with us, and I hope you have a safe and wonderful day. And we will see you again tomorrow.
Tobago Updates.